South Africa has seen an increase in COVID-19 numbers, and government says the new variant, Omicron, is behind the recent upsurge. As countries continue to close their borders to this country, there's split opinion about President Cyril Ramaphosa's move to consider mandatory vaccines. A task team has been established to consider restricting entry to unvaccinated people at some public venues. Now, to talk to us about this and other issues, we're joined by the Deputy Minister of Health, Dr. Sibongiseni Dhlomo, who joins us from Cape Town. We thank you for your time, Dr. Dhlomo. We understand that we had to pull you out of a meeting, so we won't keep you for long. Let's start with this particular question, Dr. Dhlomo. Not too long ago, the President had these words to say, and I quote, "Nobody will be forced to take this vaccine." He actually repeated himself. What has changed government's mind and to put firmly on the table the issue of mandatory vaccines or mandatory vaccination?
Thank you very much, Toli, and to your viewers. You would therefore understand that the President is really issuing a call for a consultation on this process. We would like to listen to Toli saying, I have a church membership of 3,000 people. Please, Mongameli, don't close our church. But you then need to demonstrate, Toli, how many of your members are vaccinated, because that crowd will need actually vaccination. We now know that if you are vaccinated, we do not guarantee that you will not get another infection, but you will not get a severe infection that will take you to an ICU and even death. So it will decrease hospitalization. So it will be those institutions, organizations that must demonstrate that if then there is to be if we don't have to close the economy, which we really don't want to go there. The President is saying there is no need for another lockdown provided we come forward. Because at the time there were lockdowns, there were no vaccines. Now there are vaccines, and the vaccines are decreasing the impact of deaths amongst us. So you need to demonstrate, Bongi. If you want us to open FNB, the stadia, then you must indicate that you have actually vaccinated, because you are not a danger to anyone. That is
I'm glad, Dr. Dhlomo, you use the example of a church leader, for example. Now, I'd like to ask you, just very briefly, from what you know as officials, which sectors of society are you finding that are most resistant to taking vaccines?
But maybe, Bonga, should start with those that have been supporting the sports fans, all sporting codes in the country. Most churches will want to go. You see the demonstration that was done in Limpopo by the bishops of the very big Zionist church. They came and led by example and vaccinated. Sports, culture, all activities. We are not finding as a group of leaders, but you know there are certain political parties that have taken the department to court for vaccinating the children. They are saying even vaccination is not a good thing, therefore they are expanding it. So it's not like we have an institution. Universities are beginning to say, you shall come to this university. We don't want absenteeism. We want classes to take place every day. You shall vaccinate if you are part of us. So it is motivating. It's not a group of an institution as such. It's just out there in the society, people listening to certain myths and issues that are not encouraging them to vaccinate.
All right. Let's get to this question then. Based on scientific evidence that your department receives, including, Deputy Minister, including the advice that you get from the Ministerial Advisory Committee, these are the group of scientists that advise the Department of Health, what is the one driving factor for mutations? I hope this question is simple enough.
It is this type of a virus. Look, if you want to escape death, I'm putting it in a very simple way that could be understood even by my people in the village. If you are a soldier being this virus, and you want to escape death because you know how Oli is going to defend or has defended himself in the past, you will try other additional layers of defense to make sure that you don't look the same as yesterday. This is the mutation. So the mutation is a genetic phenomenon within any species that wants to continue to survive when there is a process to really make it not to survive. So we don't want this virus to really overwhelm us. The virus wants to continue to survive and thrive, and therefore this is the issue. This is the principle of how you get mutations.
So let me quickly get in there, Minister, before you move on too fast. All right. So the host, here I am double vaxxed. There is a person next to me who has not vaccinated. Where is this virus, or in which body is this virus likely to multiply, which is the term that we are using, which is to mutate? Whose body, between me, who's vaccinated, and the other person who's not vaccinated, is this virus going to mutate?
Bongi, don't make me a scientist now that is understanding all this.
Well, you are a medical doctor.
Yeah, look, maybe on this part, you're really very much on the thin one. All I can say that virus in me and you will not be able to do as it wishes in me who is vaccinated. That person who's not vaccinated is the one who is likely to have it mutate because it thrives. It really tries everything, and it is under my condition, it is suppressed. And therefore, it may still mutate, but not to the extent that it will mutate in you who is unvaccinated. With me, it is very restricted by the things that I have, the T cells, the memory cells, and the antibodies. So according to the scientists who are advising us, that is why they are saying if you vaccinate, you are making it less likely for the virus to do as it wishes because you are suppressing it because of what you have in your body.
You've answered me there, Minister, and I'm not going to take you further down that road. So let's come back then to Omicron. I've been watching the international news channels since the discovery of this variant, and one of the key narratives they are saying about us here in South Africa is that, yes, there are vaccines available in South Africa, but the problem is that people are refusing to take the vaccines. There is vaccine hesitancy. What more can government do to encourage people to vaccinate?
Maybe, it comes back to what you started with, to say, why is there a consideration from the presidency? We have done everything. We have actually had VUMA weekend drives. We have actually been speaking to Amakosi, speaking to the faith-based organizations. They have been setting incentives, some of them non-financial, to people to come forward and vaccinate. We have enough vaccines. We are short of arms to put the vaccines to. Is the pressure maybe of the means. Now, when we have done everything humanly possible, and there is a country in Africa that is sitting at the percentage, at about 2% of vaccination, we are sitting way above that at about 41%. What then do? You probably consider getting people to consider this mandatory vaccination because we have got all the tools. The tools that we are told will survive, make you thrive well, is to get vaccinated.
Deputy Minister, the phone is ringing there. It's an indication that I need to let you go. Simple and straightforward. Last question I have for you. Is it fair then to say that the only option left on the table for government is to force people to vaccinate, what is called compulsory vaccination? Because you've tried everything. You've said yourself, you've tried everything humanly possible.
Yeah. Bongi, I want to approach it this way. Is it fair? It's my individual right to refuse or not to refuse to be vaccinated. But sometimes it goes on to be an individual right becomes subservient to a collective right. If there are 10 of us in this taxi and we want to move on, but someone is saying, I will come and jump into the taxi, but I'm not vaccinated, we have a collective right of us in the human. I would think even the cause will support to say, we are actually saying, rather than you don't come into this taxi only, rather you don't come to church, you don't come to the malls, if you think you want to retain your right as an individual not to vaccinate, so that you do not actually cloud this collective right of all of us who are vaccinated in this church, who are vaccinated as we walk about in the malls, and who are vaccinated in the taxi rank or the stadium.
Dr. Sibongiseni Dhlomo, you have answered me, sir. Thank you very much for your time. The Deputy Minister of Health joining us from Cape Town there.